Julia Pizzolini.
Oh,
Shall I admit her?
yeah, if you want to. That's it. Right. Okay, Councillor Mosquito, it has started recording, so if you want to...
Wonderful. Well, welcome all of you to the Bordesley and Highgate ward meeting. Let me inform you that this meeting will be recorded, so please be mindful of what you say. And we have a fairly short agenda, but an important one. And the first thing on the agenda will be a local police update. So if I ask Ed, Sergeant Ed Hogg to present, I'd be grateful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor. My name is Ed Hogg. I'm the sergeant for the Small Heath and Highgate neighbourhood teams with West Midlands Police, part of the Birmingham West area of West Midlands Police.
You can show your face. I've taken myself off, Ed.
Okay, I'll bear with me 1 second. There we go. My camera should be on now. With the way that the West Midlands Police areas are divided up, I sort of cover probably 2/3 of your ward. The rest of it's covered by the city centre police from Birmingham. So my team is 4 police officers, 2 PCSOs. We cover, like I said, what we call the Highgate and the Small Heath, but that's sort of the Bordesley area. And then there's also 5 teams for the city centre that cover the rest. In terms of a policing update, that's that I can provide will mainly be towards my areas, not necessarily the whole of your ward, but it's sort of indicative of what's going on within the areas at the moment. Year to date, we are slightly up on crimes, unfortunately, although I think that was somewhat anticipated with the coming out of lockdown from COVID. The increase has mainly been from burglaries, unfortunately, again, with more people leaving the house. We've seen a 30 rise in burglary so far this year, which constitutes about 30% within the area. It's not all bad news though. Violence in the under 25s, which is a massive priority for us within West Midlands Police at the moment, that's down 9.5% on last year. Robberies down 6% on last year, and vehicle crimes down 30% on last year. So the numbers are going down in those. We're also getting a lot better at recording crimes, so that would be another reason why crimes might be going up generally. For my teams, and certainly for the rest of the West Midlands, our priorities at the moment are, like I said, violence in the under 25s, and it's good news that's coming down, like I said, 9.5% reduction. Certainly within the wards, one of the things that we're looking at the moment with our partners is begging and the antisocial behaviour that's associated with the homeless community and their drug use. Abandoned vehicles is another big one for us, and we're working with the DVLA to try and target that. A lot of abandoned vehicles at the moment. And we're seeing a rise in the antisocial use of quad bikes and off-road bikes. So we're looking at targeting those with the assistance from some off-road police motorcycles from Warwickshire Police and also the West Midlands Traffic Department. I've only been on the team for about 2 months now, having come out of a regional organised crime unit. Still very much learning my way around. So thank you for letting me join you tonight. Definitely an opportunity for me to learn a bit about what's going on within the area. So not a huge amount more for me to cover, I'm honest, but more than happy to take any questions or pick things up as we go along.
Thank you very much, Edward. Are there any questions from anyone? What I would say, Edward, just for for the record, it'd be useful if you give us actual figures rather than percentages, because then we'd know what 30% means. And
yeah, I can certainly give you figures if you want them.
Yeah, that would be useful.
Yeah, so when I said the burglaries were going up, year to date last year we were on 78 burglaries. Year to date this year we're on 107. So that's a 30% increase on those, 37% increase in fact. The vehicle crime coming down, we were 439 reported vehicle crimes at this time last year. This year we're at 312. Youth violence in under 25s, 103 reports year to date at this point last year, 93 at this point this year. And robbery offences, 130 last year and 122 this year.
Great.
But again, happy to share those with you later if you want them in more detail.
Sorry, they're recorded, so that's useful. Thank you so very much. Are there any questions? Anyone? Are there any questions, Kay, through the chat or?
No, can't see any data. So
that's fine.
unless anybody wants to put their hand up and ask an actual question on screen, I think we might be done there.
Yes, we are. That's
one thing I will do. I will put the email address for my team in the chat. So if anybody does have any questions at a later date or wants to raise anything else with us directly, they're more than welcome to drop me an email. What
would be useful is if you actually say what it is as well for the purpose of recording.
Yeah, it's Small Heath at west-midlands.pnn.police.uk. Like I said, we're called the Small Heath and Highgate team, albeit we cover 2/3 of your ward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Mosquito, sorry, David has his hand up.
Yes, I could see. David?
Hi,
I
was just wondering, obviously last year was lockdown, so in terms of those figures you've presented, I imagine they'd be quite different to the previous year. So I was just wondering if there's the previous year as well, because obviously we know crime did dip last year because we were in lockdown measures. So therefore, what does that compare to the previous year?
No, absolutely valid, and it's been really difficult to compare it. Unfortunately, I don't have the figures on me from last year, but that's something I can find out if you're interested. One thing I would just say, though, is we were audited by HMIC, the Inspector of Constabulary, last year, and as a result of that, we've sort of changed the way we record things, so we're recording a lot more crimes now. So the year before might not be massively representative either, but again, more than happy to share those once I've got a chance. I'm actually off today, so when I'm back in the office on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you, Ed. Are there any other questions? That's it. So the address is Small Heath at west-midlands-pnn.police.uk. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the clean air zone. So for individuals who have not, and I shall put myself back on. So for members of the ward that have not been able to attend but will be watching this recording, there are a number of questions I will put on your behalf to Peter Edwards, who's going to give his presentation now on the clean air zone. He may answer some of the questions in the presentations, and I won't ask that question. Peter, can you make your contribution or submission, please?
Hi, yeah, my name's Peter Edwards, Principal Clean Air Zone Officer within the Clean Air Zone team. I do have a presentation if you want me to run through that with some slides, some stats and figures. Apologies, Councillor Mosquito, I think you'll have seen this on the last time I attended your ward forum, but it's quite useful just to give a bit of structure. I'm just sharing my screen. Can everybody see? Oh, no, not yet. Here you go.
Yeah, we can see that now. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, so I just need to put it into slideshow. There we go. So this is a quick video here that we, one second, I didn't expect it to work, but it appears to be working. There's a quick video here that was put together kind of highlighting some of the reasons that what the clean air zone is being implemented. So I'll just let this play out. Oh, it's cut off, but that was pretty much the end of the video there. So just think that's we've added that recently. I think we released that in May. I think it's quite a powerful video showing why the clean air zone is being introduced. So you can see on screen here some further reasons that why the introduction of the clean air zone is necessary. So air pollution is a national health emergency leading to the death of hundreds of Birmingham residents, and air pollution affects the most vulnerable in our populations, in our communities. So children, older people, and people in more deprived areas are statistically more likely to be impacted by the issues of poor air quality. And we've been mandated by government to do this and to ensure that we bring air quality within legal limits by the end of 2021. You can see some of the very unpleasant diseases that poor air quality is linked to. So we've introduced, this is the first time I've done this presentation since we've actually been live with the clean air zone. So we have now introduced a clean air zone in Birmingham. So it launched on the 1st of June, and then there was a 2-week soft launch amnesty period where there was no charging. And since the 14th of June, it's been a fully enforced chargeable clean air zone. We're a category D clean air zone, which means that all vehicles that do not meet the compliance standards are subject to a charge. So you may see, if you've checked your vehicle on the government's vehicle checker, which I've put a link to in the chat, that you may have a charge here in Birmingham but not in Bath. Well, that's because Bath is a category C and they're not charging cars, they're doing buses, taxis, HGVs, vans, but not what standard cars, M1 category vehicles. So that's why you might see that and think, well, why would I be charged in one and not in the other? So the clean air zone is all the roads within the middle ring road, but not the ring road itself. And they're vehicles that do not meet the compliance standards that enter the zone from now, from the 14th of June, will be charged a daily fee. That's £8 for cars, taxis and vans, and £50 for larger vehicles, HGVs, coaches and buses. There's a 13-day payment window, so you can pay 6 days in advance on the day and 6 days post your visit. You can pay online, you can pay over the phone, and if you don't pay within that 13-day payment window, a penalty charge notice will be issued. So that's £60 if you pay it straight away within 14 days, or it goes up to £120 if not paid within that period. And instructions on how to pay and how to appeal the penalty charge notice will obviously be on the penalty charge notice. It's dealt with the same as a parking ticket by the same team at Birmingham City Council. And I've also put a link in the chat which has information about appeals and they call it representations in the enforcement team, and refunds, etc. So it's important to note that you will not be given a notification of driving into the zone. It is the responsibility of that driver, of the driver of the vehicle, to know that they've gone into the zone. There's more than 300 signs on the boundary and on the approach, and there's an awful lot of kind of comms and engagement that's gone out about this. So you shouldn't really drive into the zone without knowing. But essentially, if you leave the ring road to go into the city centre, that is a chargeable road. So you need, if your vehicle is non-compliant, and it's important to stress that this isn't a congestion charge. This is only vehicles that do not meet the compliance standards. We think that's around 1 in 4 vehicles, and you can check your vehicle using the government vehicle checker, and I've put the link to that in the chat. So those vehicles, so I keep saying about vehicles that don't meet the compliance standards. So what are those vehicles? Well, that's shown on screen. So it's Euro 4 for petrol and Euro 6 for diesel. Indicative guide, that's most petrol vehicles from 2006 onwards and most diesel vehicles from September 2015 onwards. But as I keep reiterating, please just check on the vehicle checker. That is, those dates are just there as a guideline. There are some vehicles pre-2006 and pre-2015 that are still compliant. And then obviously electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cell, hybrid electric vehicles, as long as the remaining part of the engine, the diesel or the petrol engine, it meets the compliance standards as well. So when we consulted on the clean air zone in 2018, It wasn't a consultation as to whether Birmingham City Council should do a clean air zone. It was, we've been mandated to do a clean air zone. We have to do a clean air zone. Who do we think is going to be most affected by this, and how should they be supported? And off the back of that consultation, there was a raft of a suite, whatever you want to describe them, of exemptions and financial support that was put forward. So people that live within the clean air zone can apply for a 2-year exemption from charging. That is all done online. We haven't closed applications. The applications remain open, but it's really important to stress that if you, friends, family, colleagues live in the zone, you're not automatically exempt just because you live in the zone. You have to tell us and you have to prove it to us via an online application form, and we are continuing to process those. We have issued in the region of 7,000, I think we're getting up towards now, exemptions during that 2-week period between when we launched the zone and then started charging on the 14th. We processed, and I think we approved a further 600, and we continue to do that. People who work in the clean air zone can access, and if they earn less than £30,000 a year, can access an exemption also. And then businesses that are operating within the zone, so commercial vehicles, they can access an exemption. Also, visitors to specified medical centres and the Children's Hospital can access an exemption. This is done by a voucher system. So if you go to the Children's Hospital, they will present you with a voucher, you scratch the voucher and input it online. And also the Millennium Point vaccination centre. So there are so there's four sites. The sites that have got the exemption were selected because they offer out of hours or emergency services. So there are other GP practices or other doctors' practices within the clean air zone, but there are not exemptions for them. So it is Badger, the Children's Hospital, Atwood Green, and a Millennium Point, a vaccination centre. Those are the 4. That's all information's on the website, and I can put it in the chat when I come out of presentation mode also. There are also exemptions for kind of more specialist vehicles, so emergency services, cranes, diggers, that sort of thing. Probably not relevant to everyone on this call. Community and school transport, so that's kind of your not-for-profit transport, ring and ride, that sort of thing. They can also access an exemption. In addition to the exemption, we secured funding from central government to deliver incentive schemes, grant schemes to help people upgrade their vehicles. So we've launched in May a scrappage scheme for workers, whereby you can scrap your old non-compliant vehicle, and in exchange for doing that, you can either have £2,000 off the price of a new vehicle, a new compliant vehicle, or you can have mobility credit, travel credit put on a Swift card with Transport for West Midlands. So that scheme is now open. There is then £10 million pot of funding for HGVs, so people that operate HGVs and coaches. That's not just people based in the zone, that's small to medium enterprises in the West Midlands. And finally, the largest pot and the one that we've given out the most money on so far, it's been open since I think December, is our taxi and private hire funding, and that's available for Birmingham licensed drivers to help them upgrade their fleet, and we have given out in the region of 1.8 million pounds so far, and the compliance of the private hire fleet is up around 80%. So we've nearly completely converted all of those private hire vehicles to cleaner, greener, more compliant vehicles. The Hackney carriage isn't quite such a high figure because it's obviously harder to upgrade a Hackney a cab because there's less on the market, but we are still supporting those drivers. So here's just some stats in terms of how many exemptions have been offered, how much money has been given out. These slightly out of date. The vehicle scrappage scheme, we've had close to 100 applications and lots of vehicles scrapped and people taking the mobility credit and the new car option, which is great. These slides are more relevant to when we're presenting to businesses, but I didn't want to remove them. So that's the end of the presentation. You can contact it, but there's loads of information on our website, and we have our team mailbox, cleanair@birmingham.gov.uk. I will come out of presentation mode and stop sharing my screen and invite any questions.
Are there, sorry, are there any questions? So I have some questions, Peter. So for the doctor surgeries that are not specified, how can we get them specified in the ward? That's one question. Because there are people who live within the constituency, but they have their surgery in the ward, and they have not, so they're not in the clean ward, they're not in Highgate or Borgate, they're not in Bordesley and Highgate, but they are in Ladywood. They have children, they can't afford to change the car, they won't be able to afford to change the car for the next 2 years because they're single parent with 4 young children. How can we get their doctor surgery as a specified or with an exemption? That's one question. The second question is, what provision are we making for carers of elderly parents? So they've been looking after their parents, going in, making sure they have their medication, keeping them out of state provision. Are we making any exemptions for them? And when you say someone changing from a non-compliant car to a compliant car, so you said a new car, does that new car mean new in terms of a different car or a car that is compliant with the clean air zone? So is it new or a compliant car? And I think that's the questions that I've got so far.
So when I was referring to replacing non-compliant cars with compliant cars via the scrappage, it doesn't have to be a brand new car. It just has to be a compliant car. So that's any petrol from around 2006, diesel from about 2015 onwards. So you don't have to buy an electric vehicle. You don't have to buy a brand new car. You just need to buy a compliant car, and that's managed. That scrappage scheme is managed by our partner who we procured, which is Motorpoint. So nobody is getting £2,000 put into their bank account. That's being taken off the price of a vehicle off the forecourt. So there's an application process online, and then we refer you to Motorpoint. They arrange the scrappage, and then you either drive away a new vehicle and they take £2,000 off it, or we get you a voucher code and you get £2,000 put into your Swift account to use on public transport. So that's that one. The question around carers. So there are the exemptions, the residents and the workers exemptions. So if somebody works as well as being a carer, they may be eligible for that worker exemption. If they live in the zone, they may be eligible for the residents exemption. There is not a carer specific exemption. We have had conversations with, and I can't remember the name of the organisation that supports carers, and they have a budget that they can potentially help carers with, which could potentially be used to pay the charges. I can dig that out, probably not now because it'll take me a couple of minutes. But I can do that following the meeting because we've had some conversations with them. But there is not a carers specific exemption. Obviously, there are not exemptions for every group that believes that there should be. So it is challenging at times. So we don't have an exemption, for example, for volunteers, or at the consultation stage, there was people saying, well, what about if I'm attending a place of worship? Is there an exemption for that? So there are not exemptions for every group that believe they're potentially deserving. And then on the final point around the doctor's surgeries, it's not simply a matter of adding them on. Those that were added on were determined because they offer out of hours and emergency services. The decision was made not to grant to all doctor's surgeries within the zone, because you can get, if it's not an emergency, you can use other modes of transport. So you could use public transport, you could walk, or you could cycle to the surgery. So it's not a matter of simply putting one. All of the exemptions are written in the legal document, the charging order, which is the legal document that underpins the clean air zone. So any changes to that charging order, material changes like adding a new exemption, would have to be consulted on, basically, because that was based off the 2018, pardon me, consultation. So it's not an easy we can't just add exemptions, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I certainly understand, and thank you for your response, but I would like to say that in terms of looking after our most vulnerable, I think we need to explore further the impact that the clean air zone will have on people going in to look after elderly parents, elderly people, and they're not necessarily awash with money. So I'm not going to discount them, because I've had enough people bring that to my attention. And I responded when to one individual and said, well, don't you have a disabled sticker? No, I don't have a disabled sticker. And so I still had to walk in to into the ward to give my elderly father food. So that's something that I still will maintain, that we need to be looking after our most vulnerable. Again, doctor surgeries. If you are a single parent woman with 4 children, and many of my constituents have more than 3 children, they would struggle to be getting on a bus to get one child to school or another one somewhere else, and then to get to the doctor's surgery with someone else. So I still would support the single parents who are struggling to get just to the doctor's surgery. I don't see why we can't offer them a voucher. I can't imagine there being many. Then I have a question that's been put, a statement made by Miss BB, who said she can't post in the chat. She said the clean air zone is not something to help us in this area. It's just moving the problem out, and more poorer people live in the outer areas, in her view, than the ones that live inside the clean air zone. It just creates more stress and inconvenience for us, and we are not happy about being charged. And 2 years grace period is not good enough, as we struggle to live anyway. She said this should be free for people who live in the area. This is the worst policy Birmingham City Council has introduced. And if I don't put that in here, Peter, then I can assure they will attack me out there for not putting their comments in.
That's fine. And if everybody's entitled to their view, nobody who works on the Clean Air Zone project thinks doesn't think that there are challenges, and that the Clean Air Zone doesn't present challenges to people that live, work, travel in the city. However, as the first slide and the video shows, air pollution is a very, very real public health problem, and actually some of the most deprived areas of the city are within the Clean Air Zone, and those people who are living within the Clean Air Zone are subject to the worst air quality in the city. The idea of displacing the issue and pushing the pollution elsewhere is not evidence. That is not based on factual evidence. There's a misconception. If you look at what has happened in other areas that have introduced clean air zones, that has not been the case. London has done it. So what you will see is, if you are discouraging people from driving into the zone in a non-compliant vehicle, then those vehicles aren't going through the neighbouring areas. They're not going through Borsal Heath, Moseley on the way into Highgate, Bordesley, because they've been put off going into the zone in that vehicle. They've either upgraded that vehicle or they've chosen to travel in another way. So the benefits go out not just to people living in the zone, but I understand that concern. But the air quality, we now, thanks to delivering the clean air zone, we now outside of London have the most extensive air quality monitoring network in the country. So that is all being monitored. It's all live on the website. So if there are pollution hotspots, then that can be identified, and further mitigation measures can be put in place. So that would be my response to that. I can put a link, excuse me, in the chat to the air quality monitoring. Bear with me, it's on our website. Because somebody asked me for it earlier. It's like a live map which shows you but it's also important to note that air quality shouldn't really make a judgment on air quality on like a week or 2 days. Lots of things can fluctuate and impact on it, so that's why you look at annual averages, and that's what we've been mandated by central government to improve, is to bring the legal limit, bring our annual average of air pollution within the legal limit. But it's important also to say that there is no safe level of air pollution. Any air pollution is bad, so we should be striving to go way beyond that legal limit.
Thank you. Mr. Akram says that if Birmingham was confident about this clean air zone and really believed it was as important as it is, why have we not extended it to the whole of Birmingham? And so that's a comment. So I'm just making that, and I don't think you need to respond to that. I would want to say that we had a very productive meeting with Councillor Wasim Zafar, the cabinet member that covers the clean air zone, and he said that there will be an impact assessment done so that we can share that when it becomes available to see how it has affected the ward. But I don't think, are there any other questions? I don't think there. I think I've asked. Kay, have I asked all the questions?
Yes, I think so, Councillor Mosquito, and I'm not seeing anything in the chat box, and I don't think anybody's got their hand up. So I think those are all the questions for Peter.
Thank you. So the key thing is that we've established that we still want our, certainly in, I don't know about any other ward, but in the Bordesley and Highgate ward, we want our doctor surgeries exempted, or at least getting vouchers. So I've put that. And we want support for our carers, people going in, looking after elderly parents, and of course, they've got to provide the evidence for that. But thank you so very much, Peter. And the next thing on the agenda is, thank you. Sorry?
Just thank you for having me along, and
yes,
I'm going to drop off now.
Yes, thank you so very much. Hope it wasn't too challenging for you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. And the next is the clean air, sorry, not the clean air, is the ward priorities. So with the ward priorities now, so each ward has got to have a ward plan, and we've put together, and I've spoken to some people walking around, you know, those individuals who've been complaining about the rubbish and the rubbish and the rubbish and the rubbish, the quality of the housing provision. So what I have done is, using the information that's been given, also information that we've had in the past, I've put together a draft ward plan. Now, aspects of the plan just describes the area, and it gives us the demographics of the area, and the gender, the faith issues or the faith descriptions. I've got here age contribution, who holds what passports, country of birth within the Bordesley and Highgate ward area. And then we've got a list of the priorities. So if we go down to the priorities, and we've got the local MP in there as well. So the priorities, and it's not really changed from since I've been a councillor, 1996, has been cleaner streets, litter, fly tipping, dumping, big issue, housing, housing and multiple occupation, investment in the area, because people talk about the economic donut. Everything is in the centre and then it's all empty on the outside. Then the neighbourhood management, the antisocial behaviour, and that obviously is a matter for us as well as the police. And I want to say there, when we talk about antisocial behaviour, we're not pushing for the criminalisation of young children. I do not see why a child of 12 should be put in a youth offenders institution. And I wanted to say that because that's one thing that was brought to my attention recently about the criminalisation of young people. Highways, parking, big issue. We've had a number of, particularly South Acre, they want a resident scheme. And then support for the Southside Business Improvement bid. And of course, we've got the impact of the clean air zone on residents in the ward. So those are the priorities. Does anyone have any objections to these priorities? And if anyone has got any objections, please can you email me? My details are on the website. And also tell me if you've got anything else that you want to add. And I'd like you to do that by Monday, the latest. It's, you know, we've had, as I say, the ward plan doesn't seem to be not varied much apart from the clean air zone since I've been a councillor, and they've all been the same. And I suspect most of the ward plans are the same. It's all around rubbish, housing, investment in the localities. So if we all agree on that, what I'll do is, if by next week Monday I don't get anything from anyone, no objections, then would it be acceptable for us to agree that, Kay and Pat? Is that the process, or what can I do? Yes. Okay. So if no one objects, or if no one comes and installs anything else within the document or suggests anything else, then we will agree our ward plan, and that will be done next week, Monday. Okay. So it is a working document. Thank you very much. And we can actually, and we will improve on it as we go along. Thank you very much. What's next on the agenda?
Councillor, sorry, Pat, did you want to speak?
No, sorry, Kay, no, I was just putting something in the chat.
Okay, it's just local updates, Councillor Mosquito. So anything that you have, but we've also got the head teacher from Nechells Primary School in the meeting, and I know he wanted to just give a little bit of an update on what the school's doing on in their community hub and some workshops. So I don't know whether you want to put your updates first, or whether you want to.
I think it would be useful for our head teacher, who I find quite inspirational, Mr. Camps, to go into. I suspect you probably have students or children that live in the locality that go to your school. But it's very good that you've come out into Bordesley and Highgate. And would you like to tell us what you want to tell us?
Of course, thank you very much. I'll turn my video on as well so you can see
please.
me. There we go. Yes, so I mean, really, we have quite a few children who live within your ward. So for me, it's quite important to obviously engage with you and also kind of talk about what we have on offer. We had historically an old building, which was originally a caretaker's house before we became an academy. So for a long time, we had this vision of creating it as a hub for our local community. And that's something we've done with COVID. We've seized that opportunity and used that time to be able to develop that site. So it's a functioning hub now. For us, we've worked really hard over the last few months, kind of engaging different agencies to kind of come in and deliver workshops. So at the moment we have ESOL classes, which are open to all community members, not just our parents and carers. We also have a drop-in session where we have a member of staff who will support with job applications, employment kind of help, but equally housing support as well. In addition to that, we also have a wellbeing workshop around mental health, which at the moment is sewing. So again, community members can come in, develop their sewing skills, but equally have a cup of tea, talk to someone, and meet other people within our community as well. In addition to that, we also have Job Train currently working with us, who are delivering some different workshops in terms of for those who are seeking employment but haven't quite got there yet. So, you know, skills in terms of crafts, so floristry, pottery, and so forth, in terms of setting up potential businesses. So lots kind of going on. We also have a uniform bank, which again is open to all schools within the local area, where parents can go and purchase a uniform at a very reduced cost. So it's roughly about £3 for a full uniform, and obviously that's a contribution because we know it costs significantly more, and we have donations coming to support with that as well. September's quite exciting for us because we have more agencies joining. So we have the Muslim Women's Network, who will be running some different sessions. We have Nicola, who works with the Home Office as part of Prevent work that she does with them. And again, they'll be offering one-to-one sessions, but also larger sessions within groups as well. We also continue the work with Job Train, and we'll have different workshops available again. And ESOL will continue as well. And lots of agencies we're currently seeking to kind of get involved and support us too. So lots of really exciting things happening at the moment.
Great, thank you very much, David. That was very useful. In actual fact, so you said it's floristry. Is that free?
Yes, we've kept it free access to all agencies. Currently, we're not asking for a charge, so any agency can come and join as long as we have capacity to be able to accommodate them. We're happy to have them on board, and free access to all in the community.
Oh, that's wonderful. In terms of school uniforms, do you do above a size 14 plus? For £3?
Presently, we don't. We don't presently. At the moment, we've engaged a couple of primary schools. So we have St Joseph, who have signed up. Cromwell are looking to sign up, and obviously ourselves as well. And they offer just a very basic kind of level of school uniform, similar to how a food bank would run. But our community felt that they wanted to contribute something. So we've made it very low priced, so that, you know, it's not a handout, and anyone can access it.
Brilliant. And there is an organisation that I can put you in contact with after the meeting that deliver services. So it's violence against women, young people, to staff and parents. And I think that because of where your school is based, there would be an excellent contact for you. But it's a shame that I won't be able to get a school uniform. I'd wear a school uniform for £3. And
Thank you.
yes, and are you thinking about offering Chinese as a second language or something?
Not at present. We're mainly working on the ESOL classes, but there is, like I said, that there's capacity to do so much more. And obviously, if it was a community want and desire, then we're absolutely welcome in terms of, you know, welcoming that in if we have people signing up for it.
Brilliant. Edward, you wanted to ask a question. Sorry, Sergeant Ed Hogg.
Thank you, Councillor. David, you may already, but it sounds like a fantastic initiative. Have you got any involvement or had any contacts with Sergeant Pete Snape, who covers your area?
No, I haven't. We have contact with the PCSOs, the local naturals ones.
Okay.
No. So if I could have that contact, that'd be really useful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just thinking it sounds like a great space where they'd be able to come in and do crime prevention talks, cycle marking, and that sort of thing. So I don't know if you're happy to share any details on this, or if you want to drop me an email on the email in the chat, and I'll put you in contact.
Sure,
Brilliant.
I'm happy to share my email details. I'll pop them into the chat. Thank you.
Oh, great stuff. And then how many people, what's the capacity for your workshops?
Currently with COVID, with the house, we have a capacity of around 12. because it's,
Okay.
it's dual level, so it enables us to have a bit more space. However, obviously, once COVID measures change, as we've been promised they will, obviously that will go up significantly.
Okay, then, wonderful. Well, thank you so very much for that, and continue with the good work. Excellent. I'm pleased that we have you
very
here.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Another area of concern that's been brought to my attention. Oh, Sergeant Hogg, is that you still want to ask another question, or is your hand just? Oh, okay. So another area is the smell. There's an odor near the Cherrywood Road area, which has been on Birmingham Live now. And Bordesley School, the head teacher of Bordesley School, informed me that the children were not allowed to go out because the smell was so bad. They felt it smelled like sulfur. So we don't know if this smell is coming from a factory, something that's going into the drains, but it has been brought to the attention of environmental health. So I'd like that recorded, that it has been brought to the attention of environmental health. Thank you very much, Mr. Camps. Are there any other issues that anyone? We have Julia. Is it Julia? Pizzi?
Yes. Hello.
Yes. Did you have anything to bring to our attention, Julia? Is it Julia?
Yeah. No, I am not a resident, but I am working for BCU. And I'm doing a project on community engagement covering East Birmingham, including Bordesley Green. So that's why I was interested in coming to this meeting, just to hear, what was said.
Okay, then, brilliant. That's fine then. Are there any other questions? Any issues that I'm not aware of, Pat or okay.
No, nothing, Councillor.
That's it then. Well, again, I must thank David for his contribution, and let me just repeat his email for those of you who may not have access to the chat. It's David, spelled DAVID, camps@e-act.org.uk. So that's david.camps@e-act.org.uk. Okay then. Are there any other issues at all? No other issues.
No, there's nothing, Councillor Mosquito, in the chat, or I don't think anybody's got their hand up or anything, and we've covered the whole agenda.
Wonderful. Okay, well, that means that's the close of our meeting for Bordesley and Highgate. And I forgot to mention that I'm proposing that we're not necessarily change the name, but for ease of reference, we call our ward, obviously the official title is Bordesley and Highgate Ward, but I'm suggesting, I was initially thought Borgate, but Borgate sounds a bit boring. So I'm suggesting Borrogate. So before, when we were in Neychelles, because the Queen pronounced Nechells as Neychelles, so I know that was a proper pronunciation. I'm now suggesting that we call our ward, we just abbreviate to Borrogate. Sounds much nicer. Has anyone got any objections? Those of you who are listening in, you can also email me if you have any objections or any alternative names that we will just use rather than boring Bordesley and Highgate Ward. So that ends our meeting, and thank you so very much, everyone, for attending, for Kay, for Ed, Julia, Pat, Miss BB, David Camps. Thank you so very much, and all the people who've contributed. Thank you, and good night.
Thanks, Mosquito.
Thank you. So there are no other issues in the chat. Thank you for coming to this meeting. Thank you very much, Pat.